Hey YouTube, we're starting you first today, warming up. Maybe I'll tell you a story that nobody else can see any other way. So waiting to see it come live here. Yeah, I see the video from Rob Clark on the V364 at Talking Ted, if anybody remembers that. Video from Rob Clark on the V364 at Talking Ted, if anybody remembers that. Oh, this is interesting. You have a frozen picture of Ben Jordon. I'm going to have to pay licensing fees now. Let me, This is interesting. You have a frozen picture of Ben Jordon. All right. So, as I said, why don't I grab something while we're killing time? We start in, we just started. Let me get Ben involved here. Too bad. I was going to show you this. Oh, Skype. I hate Skype. Oh, wait, I can't tell time. I thought that's because it's digital. It's not 10 till yet, is it? We have 3 minutes. All right. So back when we did the C128, we had new chips that weren't done yet. So this is a chip emulator where this would plug in place of the chip, and I am about to rehab these pins that are 35 years old and bent. And this particular unit emulated the new VIC chip that would come out. So it was a VIC chip with lots of stuff, including delay lines, so we could create RAS and CAS. There's actually a character ROM probably, and a bunch of other stuff. But this was real common for us to plug these into the main board before the chips were done. In the case of the 128, we had 5 months. This was probably built around the second month, about a month and a half in, 2 months at the most, because the programmers really needed this stuff working so they could write code. So anyways, that's our sneak peek for today. Let's get set up. Ben with his eternal surprise shot there. Alrighty. And I wish I had a way you could chat with me. Send me emails, BilHerd, B-H-E-R-D, at c128.com, and tell me how to do a live chat that doesn't add to my workload too much, so I could just type in real time to y'all and not have just one more thing to break, right? All right. And in 30 seconds, we're going to call Ben. He said right at 5, or right at 2, which is actually 11 o'clock his time. And again, all I have to do is find Skype.
Good morning.
Hey, that actually, I didn't have to redo your Skype connector. You just started moving again. You've been frozen in time since,
Oh, that's funny.
yeah. All right, and you'll be doing screenshots or screen sharing today, right? I have a part of the screen set up for that.
Yes, I will. And you may have to remind me once again, not just to start streaming my screen on the YouTube side, but also to share it on Skype.
Right. And
so.
Okay, good, we talked.
But because we talked about it, I will probably remember.
Right, which is good we talked. No, we're getting better at this, right?
Yeah.
That means something else will break. Actually, my
No,
earbuds
no,
turned
don't.
off. All right, I'm going to. Oh, it's still lower. I called you right on. Oh, my clocks aren't the same. Damn it! I have a nice digital clock up here, you know, for studios, and it's wrong. I just realized it's wrong.
Oh no. Before we get started,
Yeah.
I want to find some better way of showing both of us on XSplit. Do you have any suggestions rather than the two quadrants at diagonal corners?
Not without creating a background tile that then circles us, so you see just us. But
Is there
I
no-
don't have a.
Is there
I
no
don't
way
have
of
a good way now right now.
is there no way of cropping?
You asked
surely-
that before, and you ended up stretching, but I don't know if you cropped.
So keep aspect ratio,
That's where you were.
auto crop.
Oh, we like it when programmers make decisions for us. Try that.
Try dragging outlines of the source with the Alt key pressed.
With the Alt key. Wow, what is that? An Altium hotkey combination?
I'm just going to try something here.
Press the Control key with your nose, the Shift key with your little finger. And there goes. Facebook will be starting up soon. YouTube's already streaming, though I can't tell if anybody's watching. I got a couple thousand subscribers over there.
I figured it out, Bill.
Yeah?
I found it. Yes. It's the there's a manual crop.
Where is it?
If I right click on my source, it's a bit hard to use because it doesn't operate instantly. You have to kind of do it and then.
So you right click on the source and then effects or something?
Right click on the source and go to layout, and it's the cropping bottom section of the layout, and there's top, left, bottom, and right.
Ah.
And I'm shown on my source, I'm over the top of you, so I moved my thing sideways and cropped it left, so I'm taking up a full half of the screen. And I just moved you. I moved myself right and cropped from the left edge, and I moved you leftwards. So now we're half the screen each and approximately the same size. I'm taking up a full half of the screen, and so I've got that as our main scene, and then I can make you full screen. I've got a preset for just you, a preset for just me, and a preset for sharing my desktop. So
Very good.
Yes.
You know what we need? We need to do this show long enough to attract somebody to produce it live with us.
Well, if we get enough following, I'll be able to convince Ben Kitzinger or one of our gurus to do this, control the streaming. That was a Freudian slip. I said control the screaming.
No, that's a normal thing. The programmer beatings would be this wail of despondency, and we would try and do it at 3 o'clock so the programmers would learn to dread 3 o'clock. And we would use random programmers. You just grab the first one you find, beat the tar out of them, right?
Pick them up by the scruff of the neck.
Oh, just so their little feet can't touch the ground? Yeah. Actually, I'll tell you a story offline about that. I did that to a hardware engineer.
Oh, really?
At 1 in the morning, he leaned down behind me and yelled in my ear, and my knee hit the table like that as I went straight to my feet, grabbed him, turned, and I'm cocked like this, and I realized that there was a person standing here going, and I'm like, hold the hand, what? And I look, and it's a hardware engineer I know going like this. And not once did anybody ever mess with me again at Commodore.
Okay, so I'm ready to click go live on the YouTube stream whenever you're ready.
Okay, do it. We are streaming on Facebook now, I think. Yes,
Okay,
it's set for
cool.
public.
And
I did a quick sound test.
We have 4 minutes till we're due to start by my
All right.
Fitbit, which may not be accurate.
Okay, YouTube sounds good. I actually
Thanks.
got my iPad out for a YouTube monitor.
Cool. Thank you for testing that.
Well, that was my YouTube channel. What's your? I don't have your YouTube channel.
Well, actually, yeah, I should do that, shouldn't I?
Altium.
Altium Academy. It says live now, so I'll click the live now link. And
I actually got my iPad out for a YouTube.
Yep,
monitor.
sounds good.
Yeah.
Sounds
Just
good.
save me having.
I'm gonna close that tab so it doesn't distract
Yep.
us.
Or turn your volume down. It works! Oh, my friend, what did it take? 3 weeks? Third week?
Got it.
Oh, don't go over the top now, or it'll school
yeah.
you hard.
Yeah, we don't want to.
No, we don't want to.
We don't want to jinx it, hex it, whatever. Okay.
So that
Well,
auto
we're live.
crops. Okay. What do you want to talk about first? That's never a problem with us, though. What to talk about? It's keeping it
Bruce.
short.
Well, since we've got a few minutes, so people probably aren't quite joining just yet.
I can do a
We
quick
can-
show and tell.
Yeah, that would be great. Let's do it.
All right. So I showed this to the YouTube people as I was warming up. Back before time, we would make our own integrated circuits, as you know. This is for the 128. And we did the 128 in 5 months, and the chip that would go in the board didn't exist. It wouldn't exist for 4.5 months. So we would build a chip emulator board, and this is wire wrap, some of your favorite technology there. Forget the pins that are bent, because this is about to get rehabbed. That's why it's out.
Oh, wow.
I'm a horrible collector. I throw these things, right? And people cringe when they see me beating the crap out of them and stuff. But anyways, what this allowed us to do was plug that into where the chip would go. And then in this case, this was an old VIC chip with delay lines to redo the DRAM timings, a different character generator. And this would plug into the board. And we had 3 of these, one for each of the 2 programmers and 1 for me. So a little piece of past here. This is how you design a computer in 5 months.
That's incredible.
With a total of 5 custom ICs, 3 main ones and 2 minors. So how's that for a show and tell? What you got, man?
That was cool. What I have. Let's go to me.
Well, you know,
Real quick.
I have a burning question about Altium.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
What's that?
Burning. So I love this utility when you're done. The cycle is you try and do everything right in the beginning of the project, but near the end, you're afraid to touch stuff, right? Because you don't want to break a library right as the customer is looking over your shoulder. And there's this, it's a tool, right? Create library from project. You're familiar with it.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So I create library from project and I go, oh, it's all in one place. And then I look, it's not being used anywhere. So what's the prescribed way to go? Create library. Now use library strictly. I don't want footprints from here and here and here in this network drive that'll be offline later.
Yeah. Let me share my screen. I'll show you.
Okay. And I'll grab your screen when you share it.
Where's the... Hang on a second.
But you know what I mean by near the end, I get positively, I'm a scaredy cat. I'm afraid to touch anything that may screw up a library component on the board that's already done, you know?
Okay, can you see my screen without my Skype profile in front?
Give me 1 second. Facebook streams. Actually, I still don't see the share screen on Skype. Did you do this?
Skype I'm not used to. In Zoom we use at Altium and I click share screen and it's instant. And with Skype I have to confirm, so I keep forgetting and that popped up on the other screen. But
got it.
You'll see it now. I'm sharing my screen now. And on YouTube, if you're watching, you can see Bill down in the corner on our Skype call and my unfinished power supply reverse engineering project, which is going to be a whole other topic for another day, but that's going to be fun. In fact, I have a friend who works with me called Chris Carlson, who is a power electronics expert, and I think we should get him looped into the show somehow someday to talk about this. But Nevertheless, I digress. So there's a bunch of parts here, and all of these, as pretty much all of these parts were found using manufacturer part search. So I'm actually using a TL494 switching controller there for, this is a switch mode power supply design, just a very common sort of design. And I found those using the components and manufacturer part search channel. But if you look at this part, if I double click, not click wants to move. I double click, it goes to properties. You can see it came from the Altium content vault.
Right.
And it has this design item ID. And the problem is, well, what if I don't like the symbol? I want to modify it. Or back to your original point, this is actually a very useful feature for people who do work as contractors, but really anyone. You may need to create a library after you've designed a complete project. You should create a library from the project that stays with the project, so that if anyone in future has to come along, let's suppose you get hit by a bus, you can hand off the project and they'll have all the symbols and footprints that were used in it, and 3D models as they're attached to the footprints. Right. So there's this feature that you mentioned, which is make schematic library. So I can make a local library from the schematic, or make integrated library that pulls the full unified component with symbols, footprints, 3D models. So I'll go ahead and do that. I normally, from a schematic, will make a symbol library discreetly.
Okay, that's what I do
for a project. And then after I've laid out the board, I'll do the same thing and make a PCB lib in the project.
Very good. Yep.
Now, I think
integrated libraries kind of, they seem to add a step later when you try and use them. I end up breaking them into two pieces anyway. So I understand integrated libraries, but I personally keep them separate because I'm doing two separate things usually.
Right. Now, what I don't understand, so I'm in a internal build here, so maybe this thing's not quite functioning correct, but...
Or it works like I thought it did, and that's my question.
File-based library
So
preference.
I suppose, now this week I learned from Eric...
I think things keep opening on other screens. Hang on a second. I need to... Yep. I'm running into this thing. The Skype, unfortunately, the way it controls screen sharing is kind of funky.
I hate Skype.
Anyway, the dialogue opened over there, so let's bring it here. So I've got these. Okay, cool.
Yep.
Let's try this again. Sorry, I don't know why this didn't work the first time. Now it's doing it with the discrete library, and there's some options. This is a new feature actually, which is really nice. Where do you want to group components? Because there might be many. Right. Maybe I want just one resistor part that's generic because they're all the same footprint size, for example. And later on, I'm going to use one symbol, but create multiple instances based on value. But this allows you to process, and it helps it from making duplicates. So we do that, and then it adds it to the project.
Right.
And there it is. There's all the parts I've used in this design. And these couple of parts came from...
Anywhere.
Yeah, they came from some other place. Some of these came from miscellaneous devices. What I don't understand... Oh, there's the TL494, which came from Octopart.
Yes.
The manufacturer part search. Okay? So let's say I make some changes, and back now I'm in my... power supply design, and I realize if I look at the properties of this part, it's still pointing back. Let's go to properties panel. It's still pointing back to the original source. So I could change that individually to my local library that's been added to the project, or I want to do all of them. So the way you do that is we go find similar objects on the right mouse button menu.
And that's what I was going to ask.
We're going to look for all open project documents, click OK. It selects all the parts, and then when I click source, I can click the browse button and choose my local schematic library. And then this is an important option. Do you want to remove the existing part IDs and select it later? Or do you want to keep them the same? So what the part ID is essentially the name of this specific manufacturer part in this library. Now, if I made the library from the design, they probably don't need to change because they're going to be the same as what they originally were. But if I'm moving parts to, say, my own big central library later on, it would be better for me to do clean, right? But I'll just say do not change for now because it's easier. And what that means is now when I look at this, let's clear that highlight. If I look at this individual TL494, it's got the same design item ID that was duplicated from the vault, right? But it's now coming from, I just deselected it there. It's now coming from my local project library. So, and then that means if I do make changes in the library and change a bunch of footprints or things or modify some symbols to meet my preference, later on, I can go Tools, Update from Libraries, and it will update from the local project libraries now instead of the cloud.
Okay. Do you have to do this to every page? Let's say this was a 10-page schematic.
No.
If you had to do this 10 times.
No, that Find Similar Objects, if I go to Find Similar Objects and choose Part and choose Project Documents down here and select, it will select every component in every schematic sheet if it's a multi-sheet design. So I don't need to worry about that. It will do them all in one hit.
Very good.
Of course, now there's a downside. There's pros and cons to everything. The con of doing things this way is my whole design and all the parts in it are no longer linked at all to the content in Octopart. And what I mean is I can no longer update if Altium were to provide an updated symbol or footprint with a better 3D model, then when I do an update from libraries, it's not looking there anymore. So I lose that connection. However,
but I was going to say that's safer, though, if you're paranoid. That means that you won't get a change later that slipped in under the covers and you missed it.
Right. And I've retained all the parameters. You see here this list of parameters in the component properties. I still have the official footprint. I still have all the manufacturer data that's added to the parameters in the database. I still have the link to the data sheet. So I don't lose any of that useful information that is needed during design and also later on in the bill of materials.
So the one thing I'll add is I leave the CMP name in there, just as you did, until I herdify the component. Once I've gone in and I've blessed it, then I give it a meaningful name, and that's also my cue to myself that I've now touched it. So the CMPs are like a footprint. Yeah, herdification.
That's a new, we've come up with a new term.
Well, there's Altiumanize, but that it doesn't quite flow as well, you know.
No, it's herdified. I like that. It's been herded.
Yeah, it kind of means coagulate, you know, and don't get me going on that. So very cool. I just learned to do part replacement because I fell into the old trap where I swapped a part, and of course on the PC board it took it off the board. And so today, and this is really cool about Altium, you heard me talk about this last week. When you go there to the tech support area, a chat box starts. So here I am chatting. Eric with CH is one of the people, but they're actually answering they're not doing stupid answers, but I'm asking stupid questions. And Eric was able to tell me in real time, no, do exactly what you just said. And so I got better at doing the replace parts, because the problem I always had is when I select a bunch of parts and then I modify something in the properties panel, it only does the last part I selected. And I'm still trying to figure out when it's like, there'll be 8 blue boxes and a green one, and it only does the green box, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Oh, just a real quick, I must apologize to Eric Allbach. Actually, I know Eric is actually a customer of Altium, and Altium Eric, who you were on the chat to, who had 12 chats going, is a different Eric. And I wanted to let you know, Bill, because you made this praiseworthy comment that he was really juggling a lot of support questions online and doing a terrific job. I want you to know he just won a prize internally for the Altium. It's this thing we have called Altium Ambassador. Someone who really goes above and beyond, and they get like an actual prize given to them by HR that's pretty decent, and a lot of recognition in the company. So I thought you might be really thrilled to know that.
That's cool.
Here and your words, of course, are.
I got a prize from when I was at your Altium Live event that I still use. It's an Alexa, which I never would have bought because of my paranoia. And we sat in the hotel room that night, plugged in Alexa, and listened to classic rock on the porch, watching the waves come in. It was just a wonderful night.
Right.
And so I still have my prize that Judy gave me. So thank you, Judy.
So good. Yeah. So we started out with your show and tell, which is cool. I've got a little show and tell as well.
Show me what you got, man.
And this is exciting for me. I've kind of wanted one of these for years and put off getting it because I haven't been able to justify it. But I just found there's a lot available, really. You were talking about building a lab using eBay. Well, I'm working on it. So, it's bloody heavy. This is. Let's see, can you see that all right?
Is that a listen? L-I-S-N? Or it's a high pot tester.
This.
Oh, you're a maniac. You're going to be ruining stuff. The refrigerator's going to break. The TV. Does your wife know you have that?
No,
oh man!
Don't tell her. I've wanted one of these for years.
Some of the worst practical jokes in the world were done with high pot testers.
Yeah. So this one, fortunately, I found. At least they provide quick start guides. Rodell they're still making these, and they provide quick start guides as a download from their website. And I managed to find an old, I think, 1992-ish user manual, which has all the calibration procedures and everything in it. So, so you can stay tuned for some kind of episode or video where I'm going to interrogate a cheap Chinese power supply or two with this thing. We'll see
I can see it.
We'll see if they're really actually safe or not. We're gonna.
I can see it. You'll push the button and then just go off the air, and we hear about a power outage in San Diego or something. All right, I'll match you. This was in deplorable condition, and I had to buy a new case for it, which cost me $200. But I've rebuilt an LISN, and this is off eBay. This only cost $200, and it's for doing conducted emissions tests.
That's cool.
Right, and so this could test the same power supply you're talking about. Maybe we should do something like that, right?
Yeah.
Because what this does is it's a big ass inductor that isolates the power supply from the wall, and so any noise I observe is strictly from the power suppy. That's the easiest way to describe it.
Yeah. So
I love this thing. I haven't used it yet, but
these are a lot of fun. I have used high pot testers before, but not this particular brand. And just for those who don't really know.
Describe a high pot tester.
It's not the machine the police use to tell if you're high when they pull you over. It's not a pot. It's not a pot high tester. High pot's short for high potential, and basically the idea is if you're designing an offline power supply or any kind of product that connects to household mains or building electricity, it must be safety isolated from end users or have suitable insulation and protection or earthing. And so there's all these tests you have to do to make sure it complies with all the safety standards. And the high pot tester subjects, you basically put all the inputs, your live and neutral inputs on the power supply, tied together and pulled up to a very high voltage, high potential, and the ground connector on your power supply and the outputs are all tied together to a ground return, and it subjects, you can adjust the voltage. It's got a variac dial on the back, and I can set trip points for maximum and minimum allowable or maximum allowable current and it tests by subjecting AC high voltage to the input side of the supply and the output, and it measures the current, and if there's any leakage, it sets an alarm if the leakage is beyond your maximum allowable safe current. And you know, all it takes is 10 milliamps to cause a human to go into cardiac arrest. So a lot of devices have their safety earthing and insulation standards it depends which country you're in and what standards you have to meet, but
yeah, I have a IEC 801 standard. I've got the name all wrong, but it's the famous finger test. It'll do the electrostatic shock up to like 25 kV, I think.
Yeah.
And people will try and take the starter off of your gas grill and go, oh, that's just as good. And no, it's not. The result's meaningless without, as you said, a way to manage the current, the resulting current, and measuring it. Yes.
Yep. The only way to write a standard is to actually define specific limits. And those limits aren't arbitrary. They're based on scientific research as to what it causes to start a fire, what it causes to cause pain, what it causes to cause injury to a human. All of that's been well researched. So we know how much current exactly is based on a very small, tight bell curve that humans are subjected to from actual testing. And so, yeah, these standards are kind of important. So, yeah, I'm going to have some fun with that. First, I don't even know if it's in Cal. I don't know if it is fully functional. So I'm going to do a whole other video sometime on
I have a high voltage story.
And yeah?
Yeah. I didn't mean to cut you off, but your 20 minutes is coming up here for your show and tell, or the big thing. But as you know, I used to work in a trauma center, and we've gotten some of the high tension voltage guys in where they'll have a burn on the bottom of their foot or a burn right into their palm. And the high voltage is also has a frequency component, and it'll travel up your bone marrow and just kill it, right? It's just nasty. And you end up with a little slug of dead skin that'll fall out. Well, we had a guy come in, and he had been knocked flat. He was witnessed, right? But he was working on a printer, a big line printer. And he got knocked on his tail end. And I'm there, and he's actually okay, and we're trying to figure out what happened. I said, wait a minute, wait. I said, was there like this tinsel, this Christmas tree tinsel hanging off the back of this big printer? Was it like a big noisy printer? He goes, yeah. I said, the tinsel, and he said, well, we just took it off. And I go, I know what happened. Static electricity knocked him on his tail. They had taken the tinsel off, which is there to discharge the paper as it rubs on its way through.
Oh my gosh.
He gets behind there, touches it, the accumulated charge of, 100 sheets of paper, and just knocked him on his tail. And so it's the biggest case of static, and we're expecting high voltage with the way it was tapped out. We're expecting a lineman, after he's been hanging on the line or something. So sorry for the story, but
that's a good one. It can actually give you a big jolt.
Yeah. I have another story.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry, but you've heard of the Macintosh, right?
The computer or the Apple?
Computer Macintosh, not the Apple. Well, it's an Apple.
Of course.
So I met the mechanical designer of the Macintosh case, right?
Like the Mac Classic, the original one?
Yes.
We call those doorstops. We call those doorstops in Australia.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well,
sorry. If you work for Apple, I'm not.
And I wish I could remember the gentleman's
name.
Yeah, I wish I could remember his name right now. But we ended up like looking it over, and we're saying the same things. We're talking, the Pantone color, the finger test, this is a blind insert, you need a tool. And we're both leaning over the Macintosh like two kids going over it. And we had the same goal. This guy was dead serious because, in a Macintosh is a high voltage picture tube. I mean, it might only be 12,000 volts, but he did not want a kid.
Quite the jolt.
Oh, it'll knock you on your tailbone. And
they will.
He didn't want somebody to unwrap a paper clip, stick it in there, and hit the P2 button and get knocked. And I told him, I said two things. I said, the one thing was, thank you. I said, you're as dedicated and passionate about this as we were, right? That he's trying to be that safe. And then later, I was telling the guy that ran the VCF Southeast, and I said, I had a great time with the Apple engineer. Oh my God, I've never said that before. So I actually found an Apple engineer I liked. So I'm sorry, there's another story for you.
Well,
but it was a
actually,
finger test we were talking about.
I feel like any big successful company, but particularly one with a great history like Apple, is going to attract fantastic engineers. I'm sure. I've met some of them. There are some really excellent people there, just like there are in any large successful company. You're going to find some pretty, especially in technical roles, you often find really good people. But good people are everywhere if you're willing to look for them, if your eyes are open.
Hey, it's 20 minutes after, so we said that that'd be a time for you to do an Altium thing if you didn't already show first.
I did already. You asked me about.
You did.
So I don't know. What else do you want to know?
Well, you want to show us how to do a query? How do you do a query?
Okay.
Or you want to save that one for highlighted
no,
on a different day?
Actually, it's really easy, and I will show you because it's a very, very useful thing to know. So I'm going to switch back to sharing my desktop.
And I'm going to make you full screen. And to everybody who wonders why I keep bringing up Altium, this is my chance to learn from an expert. So I'll just go ahead and put that on the record there.
So, okay, what did you want to know? Query.
Queries. So make a query that's like U1 and U2 or something like that. How do I first string a couple things together? Let's say I want to
do it on the
change...
Board side or schematic? Because it works anyway.
Let's go board side.
Here's the thing. In designing electronics, either in schematic or in PCB, you frequently come up against this need to change a whole lot of things in some specific way. And you don't want to do it bit by bit. You don't want to have to go round double-clicking on every single trace and make it narrower. So let's say I'm going to a new PCB fab and I need to... For whatever their process.
Share your other screen on Skype, please. You're still showing the schematic on Skype.
Maybe there's some delay, but I switched to PCB. You should be seeing that. There's probably some delay in screen sharing in Skype.
Okay.
On YouTube, we're looking at my PCB. Should be seeing it on Skype as well.
No, not yet. Let me see if you have a second screen share, and I need to find it.
I'm going to stop and restart sharing the screen.
Okay.
Can you see my screen? And I'm moving the board around.
I see you on Skype, but I'm not seeing you in XSplit. But continue talking, and I'll get you hooked up here. This only affects my stream. And there you are. I got you. Very cool. Okay, keep going.
So here's the deal. I've got all these tracks. And there's straight line segments and there's arcs, right, on this design. And if I look at the properties of any of those, they're the default 10 mil trace. So first of all, let me really quickly check my design rules for this design because I ought to be able to go less than that. So let's go to routing width rule.
One of the biggest compliments I've ever received was from you. And you said, oh, I noticed you had all your design rules checked off. I was like, oh, thank you.
So here's the thing. Let's say I wanted to make all the tracks not 10 mil but 8 because I just want to increase the amount of space I have around the place in case I need to run some additional routing or something. It's kind of a BS scenario, but you know what I mean. Like,
right.
So let's I'll use that find similar objects again. Now, what I could do instead of that is there's a filter panel. And to open it, you go panels, PCB filter, and there's this area here that's a little box for typing in what's called the query language. And the nice thing about this is it gives you code completion. So it hints if you start typing something, it gives you hints as to what you might be referring to. And so here's a good example down here. I have this ground trace. No, I don't actually want that. So I need to make some extra room around here so maybe I can redo that better so there's not a net antenna problem there. Okay, but So I could say, well, there's all these queries that begin with is, and this is an object type check. You can have class or object group membership checks. So there's is queries, in queries. So if an object is in any component, and I click to say let's mask, so that will highlight them and zoom to them, and click apply. It's going to show me all the objects that belong within a component, and those are naturally pads,
Cool.
3D bodies, and silkscreen objects and holes that belong within components, right? Or you could say in, let's say in differential pair or whatever. Okay, so is another one. I could say is track. Is that right? So it gives me this code completion kind of thing, right? So it gives you hints, and there's all the normal Boolean operators like or, and, not. And so if you want to say if it's in a track, it's giving me all that. But of course, it didn't pick up all the curvy bits. Why? Because those in Altium
are arcs.
Altium's object hierarchy, those are arcs. So I could say is track or is arc. Now they're not selected. It's just highlighting them for me with the filter engine. Right. So what I actually want to do is check select, and I could do it that way.
Okay.
And so you can use this as a tool if you want to become a ninja. You use this tool to create queries because it helps you. And of course, there's a query helper as well, and it lets you test your syntax to make sure if you start doing much more complex ones, you can see all the different operators are available for equality tests, greater than, less than tests. Anything that results in a true or false can be used. And so, and it gives you all the library of functions that are available in, and it's context sensitive. So if I'm in a library, it'll give me a subset of this. If I'm in a schematic, it'll give me all schematic objects and so on. Now, if let's clear that, and you'll notice that I selected all the tracks, or I highlighted all the tracks and arcs there. But I don't want to. What I want to do is take all the signals and make them 7 mil traces.
Okay.
But I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it for the power and ground.
Right.
And so what I'm going to do is show you now the other way. Other than using the filter panel and manually typing in a query, you can, let's zoom in. So I'm right clicking on something here. I can go find similar objects, right? And that opened on my other screen. So I'll bring that over. And it says object kind track because that's the object I right clicked over. Now, I want to do more than just tracks. Let's say, I want to do, I don't need to do tracks. I want to do anything, but let's say it's on the top layer, and here's the interesting thing. I could go by net, but I don't want just that net, right? Or maybe I do just want that one net, but I can type in this field, right? So I could either click the drop down and pick any of those nets on the design, or I could do star to mean any, so wildcards work, or I could type in, I don't know, some other query subset that is like a textual filter. So I could do P star. So let's say I want all the peripheral nets. So anything beginning with P but ending in whatever is going to be highlighted. And then I can check this box, create expression. So not only will this select and highlight all those objects I'm talking about, it will also create an expression and put it in this box over here. So let's do that. Click OK. It runs the query, does the selection.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
And it gives me the query over here so I can reuse it. And there's one thing even better than that. I can now say, well, I want to apply a new design rule to all of those.
Wow. Right.
So now I'm going to say create rule, and say, well, I'm going to make a new width constraint just for all those peripheral IOs. And that is going to give me a preferred width of actually 7 mils and a max width of 10. Now, I'm not actually editing the traces at this point. I'm only changing a design rule.
Right.
So that if I were to reroute them, it would select the 7 mil next time instead of the 10 because of my rule preference.
Now,
But
are
now-
you able
well,
to
first-
change it across
Yeah.
the board without? Okay, go ahead.
Yes, so that's the next thing. I do want to change all of these to be 7 mil traces. And so they're all still selected. So all I have to do is go over here into the properties panel, which gives me the common attributes of everything that's selected. And it's there are some other items in there that should not be part of that query.
So I didn't realize that it only showed the common attributes. That's really interesting.
It's giving me pads, and I don't want the pads. So I'm going to filter one more level, but this time I'm going to filter using the properties panel. At the top here, I can actually create a post-selection filter, and I'm going to undo that and do just tracks and arcs. And now it's showing me the common attributes of all the selected tracks and arcs. So I can actually go in here and delete that 10 and make it 7, and boom. They're all 7 mils. All of those are 7 mils. They're all in exactly the same place. And naturally, because they're routed endpoint to endpoint, snapped to the center of objects, I don't get any gaps or anything like that, right? So this works perfectly for kind of bulk trace editing. But you can apply that process to any kind of class of object in Altium Designer's UI. It's extremely powerful. Extremely powerful.
Yes.
You select, and of course, there's even easier ways of doing it now. I could use the selection filter. Of course, what I just did, I could say, let's just give me tracks and arcs as a pre-selection filter, and I could go like this. Of course, the problem is I'm now selecting everything that's in the power nets as well, and I don't want to change those. So I'd still have to do some manipulation of my selection, and so the query language is still an extremely useful thing. And this is probably the best way for any new user to go about setting up design rules, because you can actually, while you're visually looking at the object you want to create a rule for, you can say, I need a rule for all the objects like this one.
Right.
So,
And yet it's probably one of the scariest tools, right? It's one of the more useful and one of the scariest to a new person.
Yeah, and
or at least I think so.
It can be, but you don't have to be a coding guru. Like some people see the scripting system and get intimidated. The truth is, there are many far more complicated things you will do as a PCB designer than that.
Right, right. No,
it's going to accelerate.
That's why we're talking about it.
Yeah.
Yep. Because it is such a useful tool.
I'll stop sharing that now. I don't know were there any other cool things we could chat about? Do you have
one quick thing then?
Yep.
So you talk about collecting test equipment and whatnot.
Yeah.
Alan Wolk, who is also known as W2AEW. We just had this up in Hackaday where I do some contributions. And he talks about VNAs. I don't know if you want to Google them or whatnot, but Google Alan Wolk VNA, and he actually has a very good video on cheap VNAs, $50 VNAs.
No way. I will check that out.
I'm telling you, Google it right now. It's worth it.
I'm using, let's see if the USB cable's long enough to pull it over. I'm using
okay, you got one. All right.
The mini VNA Tiny. So when I bought this, these are a bit cheaper now than they were. They've kind of flooded the market. They are pretty good. I'd say they're enough for any ham radio operator or
what's your frequency,
hobbyist.
max?
This one will go up to 3 gigahertz.
Okay. So you can do Wi-Fi.
You can do Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, and that's and it's only a 2-port VNA, so I can't hook up my Wilkinson divider to a third port and look at the S31, unfortunately. I'd really like a 4-port VNA. that'll go up to 6 gigahertz for what I'm doing, but it's pretty tough getting approval for Altium to buy me one of those. So I guess I'm just going to keep working on my RF and microwave PCB design series until someone decides to sponsor me.
I just looked for my VNA and it's missing. So
well, they do that because they're very expensive.
Yeah. So mine's only a 2-port too. So
Yeah.
and the main thing with the 2-port is you don't get as much crosstalk information as you would if you had 4 ports.
Right.
And once something will leave port 1 and shows up on the other guy's port 2, that's crosstalk.
So I'm still relying a lot on simulations for microwave board design because of that. I don't have.
Oh, we should do a show on that.
Yeah.
Well, are you using Quark?
Give it 6 months. Give it 6 months.
Yeah, 6 months.
Right.
What tool are you using?
I'm not going to say.
Oh, Altium?
It's not Altium.
Quark? Oh, okay.
Altium won't do it yet, but if I have my way, it will. Anyway, so
very good. I'm out of things to talk about.
Well, I just wanted to point out. I do know there's a really fantastic. I think it's based on open source, but not sure. But there is a VNA that's $2,500 that goes up to 6 or 7 gigahertz. That's handheld, and it's getting rave reviews. So that might be the ticket. And
okay.
There's a lot of positivity around those, and even a lot of hams are ponying up their own money, $2,500.
And hams are notoriously. They can be very thrifty for accessories because they have all their money in a radio, or even vice versa. But hams were a fact of life back when I was growing up, and now I just don't see as much of it. Other than I think every Hackaday writer went out and got his ham license just for the heck of it.
Well, I can tell you what triggered that was Jerry Ellsworth got hers. So
it did. It was the same time frame.
If Jerry got her ham license, everyone's going to.
So could I.
Go ahead. And frankly, I did it. Chris Carlson did it because we have our one of our staff members, Rob, is a fantastic ham. Has been a ham for a long time, and a lot of our tech staff are hams. They just don't really talk about it much because they're talking to each other on the air, not on YouTube. But that's changing. I think that's changing.
YouTube for ham. Yeah.
I think, yeah.
So all right. Well, hey, it was great talking with you again today, and it was great not having echo. I think we didn't have echo. As
far as I can tell, it's all good. Now, do you have any questions? I just think real quick before we wrap it up, there's some questions came in through the YouTube stream.
Okay.
Did you have any questions on Facebook we could answer for people?
I don't see any. They're just mostly saying good to see you guys and stuff. So no real questions from the people out there, because people listen to me just because I BS a lot, whereas they listen to you for actual information.
Well, just to respond to some of the comments on the YouTube, Valentin, I really appreciate your comments. You're saying you're unhappy with Altium Volt parts because they're all American. I'm paraphrasing. You said because there's no European symbols. So instead of having boxes for resistors, you've got squiggles.
Use the Yago library. It's all European.
Don't listen to Bill. Use the Altium library. There are variants.
Yes.
There's this one feature, and this is a topic for another discussion, another day. I want to show you guys how I use.
Don't listen to Bill.
Symbol. Listen to Bill for stories. I'm sorry, Bill.
And then tune him out as soon as he's.
No,
go ahead.
I'm I love you, man.
Yes.
So but seriously, there's this feature in symbols called alternatives, and they're very powerful. And most, I'd say 95% of Altium users have no idea this feature exists. So I want to make sure you know about it because
Okay.
it's extremely useful for this exact kind of thing. You can switch all your resistors to boxes. You can build your own library with a symbol that has many different variations, but it's still all the same part and one symbol, but you can choose which variation based on what it is you need it to be displayed and printed like. So what
Very
else?
cool.
Robert, thank you for your comment. We'll do a power supply. The CE stands for control.
I knew somebody
explosion.
was going to. Yeah.
I love that. That is so true. There are so many manufacturers who put CE on anything, but they just do it. We can't actually believe that they've done any testing. And CE is so generic. It could mean anything. It could mean a baby can't stick their finger through the hole. Well, so
If
what?
it doesn't have an FCC logo on it, I don't trust the CE logo on it. And that's not always the case. Put it this way,
Yeah.
if it has an FCC logo on it, then I can trust the CE usually.
Well, that's only for EMC and EMI.
Well, I'm an
electromagnetic
EMC person,
compatibility.
so yeah.
If it's for safety, you must look for UL. You must look for the backwards RU. You must look for and it depends on the country. So
VDE for Germany, that kind of thing.
yeah, that's right. And all of these have very specific symbols that are very identifiable and trademarked.
What is it in Australia?
It's they merged them. There used to be an A tick and a C tick, and the A tick was for safety, and the C tick was for electromagnetic compatibility.
Okay.
And now it's all just an A tick symbol.
Okay.
And so.
You're reading something.
And so I'm reading other comments, but actually the people on the live stream answered each other. So that's wonderful. Glad to provide a forum for you guys.
Hey, by the way, you should be able to, we'll talk offline, but we should find a way to get that particular YouTube stream on our stream, if that makes sense. The comments.
Yeah.
So mine, there's no comments, but yours, let's get that one up there. So, all right.
Yep. Well, thank you everyone
Excellent.
for joining us. It's been
a Friday.
Today.
How's that? It's been a Friday.
And please,
it's been a long week.
Even after the stream, this video will remain on our Altium Academy YouTube channel as well. So if you didn't get to ask a question, or you want us to cover other topics, or tell us a joke that's clean, please leave a comment below. And come back for us next time, either here on YouTube or on Bill's Facebook. And Bill, also you'll collect questions and comments from your Facebook stream, I trust, and that'll help us know what we should be talking about next time.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Any other closing comments?
No, that's it. Unless somebody has a joke they need dirtified, send that in too, and I'll go ahead and dirtify it. But yes. It's great talking with everybody. Good seeing you again, Ben. And
you too, man.
We'll see you next Friday, right? Right here,
Yeah.
2 o'clock Eastern, 3 in the morning, your time zone, I think.
In Australia, maybe, but here in California, it's
California. I'm the same
11
thing.
a.m. 11 a.m. California, 2 Eastern, and look forward to seeing you again next week and chatting. It's always fun.
Excellent.
Cool,
and
man.
we're out, as they say. Take care.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.